Incredible! This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 137 of the Grove Podcast. Now, I hope you're all doing very well, depending on your loyalties. Hope you've enjoyed the international break. I myself am just back from my very own international break. I think it was expertly timed on my part, having been away in India with work. So I haven't really been on top of things that much, what's been going on the last couple of weeks. But obviously I've heard the major news and the major incidents. But there was one Wednesday morning, sort of woken up a bit bleary-eyed to a ton of messages. I think it was almost about 200 in the Grove WhatsApp chat group regarding a certain ex-Arsenal left back and Tesco carrier bag fan scoring a screamer for Scotland to take them to the World Cup. So joining me to talk us through that is the Grove Podcast's very own proud Scotsman is Jamie. How are you? Have you recovered from that incredible game? How happy are you for KT? And isn't it nuts that his goal wasn't even the best goal of the night?
It's pretty insane. It was like three of Scotland's greatest ever goals in that game, which was absolutely banging. I'm still having James McFadden against France above all others, but nonetheless, I will take three of the entries in the top five because the only other one that gets anywhere close as well is Archie Gemmill. So,
Yes.
That was the greatest goal for Scotland for about 40 years, followed by then, or 20 odd years, and then followed by a goal that then stood for another 20 years, and then we suddenly had three new entrants. So it's pretty decent.
I don't know. David Neri often comes up against Brazil in '82.
It's not in it for this, I don't think. It's not. No, we're just surpassing. Plus, it's actually nice that obviously the Archie Gemmill goal was futile. The James McFadden goal was futile. Not in that game. We got the result in that game, but we didn't qualify.
And was the David Neri one? Did actually Scotland go 1-0 up against Brazil, and then they got spanked 5-1. Then they got spanked 5-1. Zico free kick.
Every greatest goal Scotland has scored has been a futile effort to either we've won the game but we've done nothing with it, or alternatively we've lost the match. So to have,
until Tuesday night,
that quality of goal where actually it means that there's qualification. It's just absolutely immeasurably great.
Excellent. So I sort of followed it sort of very carelessly whilst waking up, looking through hundreds of messages. So it was it was good. Anyway, so good. Well done to Scotland, faring much better than my fellow Italians who have just about scraped into the who've been Haaland, as they say, and scraped into the playoffs. And then it's a shame Ian isn't on the pod today. So he's our Irishman, because they were also involved in. It was nuts. It was like beating Portugal, then beating Hungary, with another last minute goal, and that took them into the playoffs. So we'll see. So I think Italy have to potentially break home nations' hearts because we play Northern Ireland and then possibly Wales to get to the World Cup. But we've won it 4 times, so I don't want to be greedy or anything like that. So
it's debatable whether it's going to happen again now, though, isn't it? Jesus,
not for a long time.
The outlook's not very bloody rosy, is it?
No, it's going to be nuts if it'll be like the third time in succession that we might not qualify for the World Cup. Third, fourth, we've knocked out by Sweden, knocked out by North Macedonia, and so this time could be knocked out by Northern Ireland, Serbia, or Wales. So
strange, isn't it? We're like reverting to a more 90s style direct football approach. We're also seeing tactical organisation and defence work be sort of the keys to success in the modern footballing landscape. And yet somehow Italy, this doesn't benefit. That's just slightly mental. It's like, you could say that everything has gone a little bit Serie A, actually, in some respects, So, it's quite...
But we just don't have the quality players. That's it. I mean, there's a few defensive ones we can talk about, but just the talent pipeline in Italy, I don't think is quite there. A couple of midfielders.
Don't you, mate? There's no magicians. That's the problem. No Casanos, no Tottis, no Baggio, no...
Exactly.
Del Piero, all of those wonderful 10s over the years.
Yeah, they do seem to be lacking that creative spark in the middle, and then up front they've got just nobody, and they'll be sort of like rotating, and like people come in, score the odd goal, go away. There's it's nothing great. But anyway, I would happily sacrifice Italy's qualification for a fit and healthy Gabriel for the rest of the season. So
we'll swap you a centre midfielder if you want. We'll take like Graziano Pella, to be honest. Like that'd do for Scotland. That'd be our best striker in about 20 years because we can't produce them. We got about 7 left backs if you fancy it, and all three of the best centre midfielders to play in Serie A over the last 2 years. We just can't really produce players in very specific areas, unfortunately.
Anyway.
And that's centre-half and centre-forward, which I believe are relatively important parts of the team.
You're going anyway. That's what matters. And what happens in the States and Mexico and Canada, well, you can worry about that come July. And look, there's often the international break is often debated. You know the worthiness of it and stuff like that. But I think. This one showed when there was actually something riding on it. There can be a lot of joy to be had from the internationals, and it showed how much it meant to players and fans alike. You know, especially when there's jeopardy involved or there's a big tournament ahead and you're not guaranteed to go. And I think it's why potentially English supporters of Arsenal or Liverpool or City or whatever, when they sort of bemoan it, is because for them it's a cakewalk and it's. All the games seem pointless because they can just put out any 11. They'll qualify. So it feels like it's often unnecessary risk for the players, and then the manager keeps playing the same players like Saka, like Rice. So it's this. I think this recent one has shown there is a lot of joy to be had from it.
I'll wait a long time to get there, though, wouldn't you? I mean, I absolutely hate the international break most of the time, and that does include watching Scotland, because watching Steve Clarke manage one of the greatest generations of Scottish footballers we've had since the 90s, really.
Well, he's done all right. He's gone to 2 Euros and a World Cup. That's pretty good going.
And this is the frustrating thing, but you have to understand what you watch to get there is complete and utter bilge. I mean, we have stunk our way through games and got results, but it's not easy to watch at all. And on top of that, lots of selection issues for a lot of Scotland fans as well. It's the usual, you think you know better than the manager kind of thing, but I think it's just mainly doesn't, he's got it's like most international managers, they establish who they trust early on and they stick with them. And it did mean we waited a long time to see Lewis Ferguson start getting game time. He was fantastic for Bologna for several seasons now. We've waited a long time to see Lawrence Shankland getting a bit of a chance, and anyone who might potentially score a goal, that's been a real issue with his selection. He really doesn't like people who score 15 or 20 goals, and he really likes people who score 3 in the course of a season. So, but it ain't the weekend to lament that, really, and it has been wonderful seeing it. And I don't disagree that he is at this stage the best Scotland manager since probably Andy Roxburgh. But it's still painful to watch. So having to go through that journey, I just feel like, could we just have a lot less games? Would it be all right if we just? Could we just go straight into playoffs? Let's just go straight knockout for the World Cup. 2 years out. Yeah. And you know what? If we're shy early on, then no worries. That's cool. We'll wait another couple of years.
But you'll have to play friendlies, unfortunately. But look, it is a tough one. We're so vested in our clubs, and for many of us, I think we would sacrifice international success for domestic success. But for many, it's not like that.
For me, that wouldn't be honest, Tabs, or for you, I'd suggest at this particular point in time.
Say that again?
Neither me nor you have got much to give up these days. So,
but true. But I think at any stage, and as especially where we are with Arsenal and stuff like that. But it's always a tricky thing. But but for others, it is just as important. They enjoy it. The players certainly take pride in playing for their country. And again, this season is another one of these odd seasons. Every season, I think there's only one season out of 4 that is actually every season's odd, because it's either post World Cup or pre-tournament and post-tournament. And with this being a World Cup year, there's added incentive for players to ensure that they're in the manager's plans, and the manager wants to maximise the time with their players to prepare for a tournament. So we will talk about Big G later on, but he actually missed out on a Brazil squad because I think he missed one of the friendlies because for the birth of his child. And look, we all see him as, okay, the best centre-back in the world, but maybe the Brazilian coach doesn't, or at the time, and maybe he wasn't. We would see him like he's got to be a shoo-in, but maybe they don't. So it's always that perspective, and also it's something from an Arsenal perspective. We've built an elite team. Well, guess what happens when you've got elite players? They all play for their country, and they're normally the best players for their country. So you can't have it both ways, and it's just a fact of footballing life, and we have to deal with it and take the consequences as is. And it's just football, basically. The what happens, and not much more than that.
Yeah, I don't resent our boys playing for the internationally at all, and I know I've sort of argued with you before as well when you've said, why can't we just not let him go? And so because he wants to do it, like, why would you not? But yeah. I just lament the calendar. The calendar's just got too many, and that includes the club game. Both of them are working away at the wrong things, and hence I resent the pause as well. And then, as I say, when your only option is to watch Scotland ultimately end up winning all, like, I kind of have trust in this team of winning enough games over the course of a qualifying campaign. I did think that we were going to qualify. I didn't necessarily think we were going to auto. I thought we were going to go through the playoffs. But I thought we'd get to the playoffs, and I felt we had a really good shot in the playoffs. But watching us do it in the most dreadful way imaginable, it's just
you're not taking any pleasure in that.
I went in even when we were 1-0 up against Denmark. I went into that that group that you're on about. It was just like, Christ on a bike's hard watching this lot. And luckily later on, actually got a lot more entertaining. But
it was all worth it. All worth it to see. The look on KT's face. Well, actually, the look on KT's face, he could have smiled for crying out loud. He just scored a belter in the 93rd minute to take Scotland to the World Cup, and he could at least crack a smile. I mean, look, how happy are you for him? I mean, considering what he's had to put up with from an injury perspective, what he's been through, to sort of have that moment, it must be sort of like huge for him personally, and obviously what it means for his country. And like the last tournament, he knackered himself like in the first game against Germany, celebrating a tackle, and then actually that changed his season, because I don't think he would have stayed with us last season had he been fit. I think we would have moved him on before the season. So, but you must be pretty chuffed for him, and I know you're a big fan of KT as well.
Yeah, I adore KT. He's very, very wonderful man, footballer, etc. Love him a bit, and he's the perfect geezer for me. Celtic and Arsenal. All his career at this point, like, this is just boys living my dream. But I think he needed it as well, because I don't know how closely many people follow Scottish football that are from the Arsenal fan base that aren't a select few of us. Things haven't been that smooth for him at Celtic either. No. So he's had criticism, which is odd in and of itself. Criticism from Celtic fans when you're a Celtic boy returning as the prodigal son that they were really hyping up, looking forward to him coming back, was not on my things that could potentially happen with KT. Like, I thought even if he might take a little while to get up to speed, there'd be complete sympathy. And broadly speaking, he's not been rattled or whatever, but certainly everybody's been a bit like, oh, if we got back someone who's just not the player we let go of, and not even that, but is he even really a fraction of the player? And I think that's starting to turn around since Bodgers has gone. Ding dong, the witch is dead. That's good. I think hopefully that will continue to turn around for him. You got to feel like, for the most old-fashioned left back that you've seen in the Premier League in the last few years, the return of Martin O'Neill to Celtic's got to be the right way to go, hasn't it? Really, let's face it.
That's funny. That's very funny.
It's like just sort of. What was getting Steve Guppy to play in front of him? I think, but I think really, really needed that. So I wonder if part of it, the not smiling and the running away, it was almost like he was proving a point. I think,
and up yours, but there was still an Arsenal element to the goal, because he's a left back coming in off the right hand side to score that goal. What was he doing there?
I can't even remember the run up that much at this point.
He he came from the right hand side. He came from out of the screen from the right hand side and belted it from like the edge of the box. And it was like, hang on, you're the left back.
Why he was on the right. I mean, he's playing centre half is probably the biggest thing. So he's playing sort of left centre half with the license to roam because of Robbo.
There you go.
Right?
You can take the boy out of Arsenal, but you can't take Arsenal out of the boy.
It's because of Robbo. That's the relationship they've had. So he's barely played left back for Scotland in the last 5 or 6 years, really, ever since, because they both came through very, very similar kind of times, at least in terms of Robertson at Dundee United and then getting his big move to Hull City, and then him at Celtic. They're pretty much, Robbo's a couple of years older, but he took longer to break through, whereas KT sort of broke through when he was much younger. So as a result, they kind of dovetailed a little bit in the Scottish team for a bit, and then by the time it was kind of worked out that you must have both of these players in the team, they tried a little bit of KT at left back and Robbo at left wing.
That's Andy Robinson from Liverpool.
Yeah. Sorry, when he plays for Scotland, he's Robbo. When he plays for Liverpool, he's obviously Andy.
He's
Robinson.
A cunt. Sorry.
No, he's not. He's a very nice young man. But yeah, so with Robertson playing at kind of a left wing back for us, that's been the better combination. Has been Robertson goes to left wing back, Casey gets to move forward from centre half, and it looks quite good.
Anyway, this is not the Tartan Army podcast, so sorry if it's 16 minutes in.
About Ben Gannon Doak for a bit, or mainly about the fact actually the other two goals. Oh, Kenny McLean's goal.
That was just actually my favourite thing, because I did look it up. The favourite thing about all of that was the commentary. The commentators, the BBC Scotland, I think, radio commentators were very good. I love the pure jingoism about it. There was no hiding, no hiding their joy and stuff. So that was great. But anyway, I think that's enough Scotland talk for one podcast. We're 16 minutes in.
You don't want to talk about the Serie A player that did actually score a wonder goal.
I think we should get on with today's show, and we'll be focusing. We will look back on a bit on what's been going on over the international break from an Arsenal perspective. And there wasn't a
January transfer window preview, including why we should sign Scott McTominay. And
no, it's fine. No? We can say you can set up your own Splinter podcast. It's fine. So we'll have a look at that. We'll obviously chat about Big G and his injury, and then we're going to obviously look ahead as we take on our friends from Middlesex on Super Sunday. So yeah, before we do that, very quickly, if you can follow, subscribe, leave a rating, comment on the usual podcast apps and on socials, that would be greatly appreciated. Love to see that. Love to hear from you. Anyway, so let's get on with the show and moving on swiftly. The big news that came out, I think Wednesday, I think it was about Gabriel picking up, I think it was an abductor or thigh injury sustained sort of 64th minute during a friendly against Senegal at the Emirates. Apparently before the game, he was warming up on his own. He wasn't training on his own, but I think he was warming up on his own, so which suggests it was something borderline about him. And they didn't want to stress anything pre-game. And then in today's press conference, we're recording Friday afternoon, and the press conference had just been done, and Mikel Arteta said Gabriel is unfortunately picked up an injury with the national team. He will be out for weeks, and that's FOR weeks, so we don't know how long. Some say 1 month, 4 weeks, some say 2 months to 8 weeks. So, we need to have another scan next Wednesday. We will have a timeline much more clearly than we have at the moment, etc., etc. So, how did you take that news? How do you feel about the injury? Just one of those things? Anything that could be done to avoid it? Anyone to blame?
On the latter 2 points, absolutely zero opinion. I don't think I know anything about that. But yeah, I'm good. It's, he's, as you said earlier, you mentioned him as being potentially the best centre half in the world. Probably is. It's, for me, it's, that is gutting. The positive side is Hincapié and Mosquera, whichever one of the two of them is asked to step in. I trust them to do a really good job. Will it be as good a job as Gabriel? Probably not. But nonetheless, that's a hell of a couple of deputies to be able to take their place. So you just got to back them now. It could be a really good. I think this might be Hincapie's opportunity now, and could be a super one for him. And I mean, it does speak to the depth that genuinely I'm so unfazed by it, in part as well, because even if you could have the two of them injured, and then you just go, it's fine, we'll play Ricardo Calafiori there and stick somebody in at left back, of which we have a lot of now as well. Like it just feels like it's a massive shame. He's very, very difficult to replace. It's an opportunity for somebody else to come in and do the job. And that's happened in midfield for us, whilst Martin Odegaard's been injured, whilst at the time when Saka was injured, etc. Same thing, next man up. And I think that those are pretty capable fellas to be able to move in there. What do you think?
I'll get back onto the blame stuff, and I don't think I'll let you blame anyone. It's just football. Shit happens, It could have happened in training, could have happened in a weekend, especially if he was maybe in the red zone from an fitness perspective. It's just what happens. Maybe he could have been handled with a bit more care. Maybe you just think, okay, a bit like Gattuso did with Calafiori. He said, look, there's a load issue. We're not going to risk him, especially when they knew they weren't going to qualify and got spanked by Norway anyway in the end. And so maybe there could have been a bit of management there. Maybe Gabriel could have fessed up a bit more. He could have maybe just sort of fingers crossed, hopefully I can get through this, especially with previous experience. Don't know, but I'll touch on that in a bit later. No, you're right. Look, we do have, at least we have the squad now to deal with it. We have a lot of cover in the options, none of which are Rob Holding. Love the guy, but so we do have people that can step up. The issue is when, and then so, no, it sounds very simplistic, but if you want to win the big trophies, you need your best players playing for the majority of games, and normally you can make do for 2 or 3 games with sort of a player being out or something like that. But when someone is so fundamental to what you do, how you play, he's been up there as one of the players of the seasons, and if he misses 2 months, that's Spurs home, Bayern home, Chelsea away, Brentford home, Villa away, Bruges away, Wolves home, Everton away, Palace at home in the Cup, Brighton home, Villa home, Bournemouth away, Liverpool home. He could end up missing like almost a quarter of the season. And
he's a difference maker because he might be our only genuine world-class player. I get it.
I think it's an interesting one. Genuinely world-class, that becomes a whole debate about what's world-class and what's not, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think you've said it before. How many players do we have who are number one in the world in their position? And he could very easily be up there. So, and he's always going to be a miss. And I think maybe it's the thing is with him, what he's done so far this season has been because we've been lacking up front with some of our attacking threat in terms of we're missing players. So he's been able to provide that option up there. And maybe if we did have our attack, if we did have Odegaard and Havertz and Madueke was fit and et cetera, then we wouldn't have to rely on him so much. So I think it's because of what he's done. There's a bit more angst and frustration about it because it's a compounding what's already been ridiculous in terms of having primary players. It's not like you have your secondary players. So it's not like, okay, Mosquera is injured or Hincapie is injured. No, it's your primary players that are injured. So Havertz is injured, Odegaard's injured and stuff like that. So you've got these primary players. It's not just secondary if you know what I mean, and that can have a big difference. And you said you can make do for 2 or 3 games, but when you're going into that many games, you will miss him. I think we will drop points as a result. So it's going to be, don't know. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully it's only a month, but when you say he's going to be out 4 weeks, that doesn't sound like it's a month. And look, here's one statistic that's a bit scary. So our Premier League record with Big Gabriel playing is we've got a 64% win percentage, and without him, it drops down to 42%. Now, that's Premier League as a whole, and that's including our Rob Holding and Callum Chambers and Socrates and Mustafi and who's the big fuzzy head one from Chelsea. The one who got sent off against Wolves, I've forgotten his name, Brazilian. Takes free kick. Yes, him. Yeah. Sideshow Bob. Yes, that's it. So there's an element of that to that. So
I thought he meant William for a bit, and I was like, he didn't play centre half. It wasn't for anything Gabriel.
But am I being too gloomy? Is it the fact that we can't go on about how brilliant a squad we've got if as soon as like a player goes out, we go, oh shit, we have to rely on the squad. So you can't have it both ways. So am I being too gloomy? Don't know.
I mean, those elements, the guys who fill in at centre half are this season improvement, right? Yet we haven't had that depth in that position. So, I mean, obviously, we had the Speller Kivior coming into the team and did really well with him, I will point out. But he's the only time really that we've had somebody, and it took him a few games to work it out, but has been able to step in and do that kind of job. I think we've known of everybody else that, I mean, actually, if you're talking about the entire history of Gabriel, any stats are also completely skewed by the fact it's not comparing the likes of, for instance, even if you compare against an Odegaard, where he's pretty much only been with us since we've rebuilt the team to some extent, at least permanently, yes. Whereas Gabriel was there for, even the very fact that you can say about David Luiz having been a defensive partner of him, that kind of shows the team that he was in at one point. So, look, whatever. I get it. I get the point, but I don't. I think you've just got to deal with it. It is football. You're going to lose the players, and it is next man up, and those next men are the best that we've had in a long time. So I'm less anxious about it than I would have been. A year ago, I'm a lot more anxious about it. And then 6 months ago, I'm a little bit less anxious because Jakub Kivior looked like he was a half-decent deputy, and I'm a bit less. And now I'm super less anxious about it. I'm not worrying about it. I'm just going, this will be interesting. We'll see what happens. Are we a weaker team without Gabriel? Of course we are. You're without, like, for me, top 3 centre-halves in the world. It really helps when you've got one of the top 5 centre-halves in the world still in place.
Next to him.
And you've got probably top 2 right-backs in the world, sat at right-back. And you've got a fella who's making a very good case that by the end of this season, we could well be talking about him being in the top few left-backs in the world. Sat at left-back. And then you've then got the deputies. So it's not, for me, it's not actually just about who's deputising and who might be stepping in. I think that's the other bit too, is that you've got, Jurriën Timber and Ricardo Calafiori are having fantastic seasons and are currently, for me, one of them is by far head and shoulders better than everybody else in the Premier League in Jurriën Timber's case. And Ricardo Calafiori, it's almost harder to determine because you're not sure what the hell he is half the time.
Yeah, he's not really a traditional left back, is he? So,
but my God, he's doing that. I don't know of anyone who stands out in the Premier League as much as him at left back at the moment, with probably the exception of Nico Riley at City, who's a very different player. But like those, he is absolutely fantastic. So when you combine all of those things and you say we've got the Zubimeni shield as well, which I think is the best shield we've had in that period of time at the Arsenal. I think he has got to that stage now. Then you should absolutely be able to deal without that world-class player and still be a better team than the vast majority of sides. And against Bayern, I'm probably more worried to a certain extent because that's where you want those true world-class difference makers maybe. But you've got to deal with it, and you've got to. I've just got to feel pretty good about the situation that we find ourselves in to be able to try and do that.
And no, I agree. Again, in isolation, I think I'd be fully on board with that. I think it's just a compound with everything else around it. So it's just another key element of our team that's out, and there's only so many blows you can take and keep moving forward, to sort of paraphrase Rocky.
But there's an interesting conversation happened the other day with Wayne Rooney on something. I don't know what he was on, but he was talking actually about injuries and saying, I can't remember who. I think an Arsenal fan. It might have been on the Sky thing, the Gary Neville bit and whatever, when they speak to the fans, Jamie Carragher and all that. An Arsenal fan was basically just talking about the number of injuries that we had and how much better it would be once you get all the injured players back. And he made an interesting little point where he's like, don't think you want them all back. You sort of always want to have some of them injured, because if you have too many of them fit, it is that much harder to keep them all.
Well, you are banking on that. You are banking on a few of them being out at some point in the season, so you don't have that everyone fit.
Kind of making the point in his career anyway. Yeah. It was better sometimes when you had a few injuries in the squad, because if you didn't have any at all, you just were in that position where some people were always getting the hump, effectively.
Yeah.
and not seeing the opportunities. So it was. I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I think our squad probably is there now, right? Whereas, and so weirdly, I think I get you, but part of the reason we've had so many injuries is because our squad's so fucking huge. Literally, the risk factor is multiplied with each individual you introduce to the squad. The chances of injury occurring will increase the more number of first team players that you have in a squad.
It's interesting take.
That is very simply the way that risk works.
Okay.
So I'm not that upset about the injuries this season. I think most of them have been ones you just have to deal with throughout a season with a big squad.
I'll be upset if we don't win something. I'll be upset if we don't win something as a result.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like there's a little bit of lots of people are going into this all the time and like, oh, such injuries. Yeah, fuck off, it's fine. We've got the squad.
No, but it's the number. It's the number of injuries and who's being injured. So look, you take Liverpool last year. You take if Van Dijk or Salah gets injured for any length of period of time, they don't win the league. So
they got absolutely
exactly. So all I'm going all I'm doing is throwing my toys out the pram and go, why can't we be lucky? I'm just being a big baby.
There's not many teams are. But also again, they do have.
Being an entitled Arsenal fan.
That smaller squad weirdly does mean. From a pure X's and O's perspective, like there are going to be less first teamers injured at any given time when they had a first team squad that was effectively 18 players with then 7 that drafted in from the reserve.
As I said, I'm being an entitled Arsenal fan who's getting upset is that why isn't that going our way? I want to win the league and why can't things be fucking easy? Jesus Christ. That's all it is. I get it. And look, that's why you've got the squad Arteta's learned, but bloody hell. I mean, look, and the reason why these injuries happen, everyone's looking at it. Is it anything that we're doing in training? Is it anything that Arteta's doing? Is it the way we play? Is there anything like that? But I just looked at today's press conferences, that have gone about. And Liverpool, Wirtz is going to be out, and I think Conor Bradley's going to be out. And look, for me, it's just three things. It's load, the increased pace, and intensity of the modern game, and luck. And the sheer volumes of games that are played, when you multiply all of that together over 10, 11 months across domestic, European, international competition, it's going to lead to load-based muscular injuries. And each association wants their piece of flesh, and they won't give an inch. So nothing's going to change from that perspective. But the ironic thing is that the quality is going to diminish. So the quality of each of these competitions is going to diminish because the best players will not be competing in the showcase matches because they'll be injured. Or big clubs will just hoard all the top talent to mitigate the fact that there's injury. So therefore the competition diminishes and it just becomes the same old. No matter what they do with the various financial sort of regulations and stuff, it's still going to be that. So it's sort of eating itself in a way. And what was interesting, and I shared with the group, I don't know if you did watch the video, the Steve Kerr, who's the coach of the for God's sake, Golden State Warriors basketball team. Golden State basketball team. And it was just perfect timing. Okay, and he said like he's concerned about the increase in soft tissue injuries across the NBA. His medical staff believe the increased pace paired with the schedule has led to it. They believe the wear and tear, the speed, the pace, and the mileage is factoring into these injuries. And he went on to say, it's basically you play, you recover, you play, you recover, you play, you recover, you play, you recover, and that's what's happening with our players. That ability to build up the body to sustain the volume and everything that's going, you're not. And this is why when we spoke with Dr. Mitchell, like pre-season, that the pre-season is when you get your fitness, and then the rest of the year is hanging on for dear life, trying to keep on to that fitness or maintaining that, or basically how much can I play slightly hurt, because all players are playing hurt with something at one point and the other. And it's just so it's not just in football, but it's the fact that he references the same points that's happening with football. It's just, he said that, they're literally playing every other night. So how do you get the body? There's being match fit, but how do your body can at some point will give way. So, I'm now less. I'm sure we can look at stuff in training or in something like, or the way we play, but I'm less down on, in the past, like saying, "Oh, Arteta played Saka too much. We did this too much. We did that too much. Or something we do. We played too intense." And all the rest of it. But actually, if you look at the way we play now, we play in fits and starts. And when people complain about the horseshoe of death, that's partly needed to bit of an in-game recovery to then go again. So people are managing themselves, so they're not furiously going 100% all the time. They're trying to manage themselves, and maybe it's not just we can't find a way through. Maybe it's like, right, let's have a breather, and then we go again. So it's there is no answer, unfortunately.
Well, essentially, I've kind of been at that for a long time. Like and it's not just football. There is a degree of the more finely tuned athletes that we produce across professional sport, which is happening across all those sports. The more that we get to a point where those finely tuned athletes are of such a high quality, none of them get to rest for a start, because you need to finely honed athlete in every single bloody game, because there's no easy game anymore. You can't rest in the same way that you used to. And you kind of and they're pushing themselves to breaking point the entire time because they're playing at such high intensity. It's not just football. You see it in the NFL. There's more injuries than ever in the NFL. There's more injuries than ever in rugby.
I'd say NFL is more impact, though, injuries, just because of the nature of the game. No, is it?
Not.
Oh, really? Is it still a lot of muscular?
Untrue, unfortunately, Tabs.
Okay. No. I was just expecting just people running
under.
Very
low proportion of injuries in the NFL. Very low.
Oh, okay.
Proportion. Yeah.
Okay.
The vast majority of them are muscular, and
okay.
You, on the other hand, in American football, you pretty much never see broken bones. Weirdly.
Because there's so much fucking padding.
Well, if you think about where the contacts occur, they are largely upper body. They're largely the impact with the ground is a big thing for concussion primarily. But they're mainly
and the surfaces are so much better, so you're getting less contortion and rotation issues.
And you also get some things that you won't get as much in the UK, like turf toe, for instance. There's a much bigger thing on those surfaces and the way that they play. But that either way, that's very similar again. It's there's a huge number of practice injuries as well, which are largely played pads off, no contact. But it is it's an incredibly high intensity sport, and it's the same way then as with football, and say with rugby as well. And again, rugby, it's not contact injuries. They're not contact injuries in the majority. There are lots of contact injuries in rugby. There are more than you get in American football, but there's also just huge numbers of muscular injuries as well, and wear and tear and so on as well. Because again, everybody is bloody massive. Everybody is finely tuned. You got far less muscle injuries back in the day when guys were less fit, when they had a second job. Why? Because they didn't run as hard or as fast. They didn't change direction as quickly.
The repeat sprints.
They literally never stuck any of their, their bodies weren't being pushed to the absolute limit, and they didn't have the capability to go over that limit at times. And whereas these lot do, and I think that's the biggest cause of why this is not an Arsenal problem.
No.
It was an Arsenal problem when we used to have a shit ton of little soft tissue injuries all the time in the Wenger years in at one particular point in time, no doubt. And I always said that was a player profile issue. We had little twisty players, and they did it primarily not by getting hurt by Stokes, as people like to think, but actually the majority of the time it was all bloody knee complaints, and it was always turning. And it wasn't about getting caught. It was studs get caught in the bloody ground and all sorts of bits and bobs, right? And lots of wear and tear and whatever. That was like a profile issue for me. Well, now the whole league's got a profile issue in that everybody is such an athlete that they are constantly kind of playing on the precipice of injury for me. But I'm also not an expert in it, but I look at what I look at, I listen to the bits I listen to. And that's the conclusion I've been at for a long time is like,
and you're seeing it in other sports.
Yeah,
and it's just low, and then everyone wants a piece of flesh. It's money, and
the schedule is too busy. The schedule is far too busy. But then even as well, I think even their practices are effectively higher. We have a lot of practice injuries, right? We have a lot of training injuries.
Well, in a way, but you've got to prepare your body for what's happening. You can't prepare softly for a hard
high intensity. To be able to keep people going. So
it's a bit nuts, and it's So it's not going to change, as you say, it's not going to change. So again, it's going to come to that. The top teams are going to hoard all the big players, and then that becomes a dull thing at the end of the day. And I think that's why we like the. I know we're talking about American sport, like the NFL, because there's a bit of egalitarian about it. There's a bit of a shared of the skilled resources out there, and one team can't hog everyone. Unless they make bad, anyway, for whatever reason. But you get the point. But look, it is what it is. We have to deal with it, and look, if we maybe it's just going to be one of those fucking seasons that when we do come out of it at the end of it, we're just going to be like, well, we bloody earned that one. No one handed that one to us. One thing I don't like, one thing that disappoints me. I want everything to be as easy as possible. I want to see us at our best. I want to see what our best team is like on a consistent basis. Even if, maybe you can't always get your best team, but that would be nice to see. What he had intended with what Arteta had intended with Havertz playing and Gyökeres as a sub, or vice versa, with Odegaard playing and Eze maybe being on the left or Eze being dovetailing. What's he going to do with Hincapié and Calafiori and Emin? I just would like to see that. Would like to see us at our best for a bit of time, not just always managing, just getting by, getting through, sort of thing. And that disappoints me, and I feel like we're missing out. So our squad should be about how brilliant a team we're going to be and how we're going to use that team over a period of time, not, oh, he's fucked, you better go in and play in his place for the next few weeks, and that's disappointing. But it is what it is. We're still a very good team, as you said in the group the other day. We're still fucking very good. So we could be a lot worse off. And just in terms of the rest of the international break, I think most of the players did okay in terms of, there were 2 games and most of them only played one or a bit of one and a bit of the other. So there was no one, I think, apart from Hincapié, who played the 290s for Ecuador. No one else played the full game. And even then, Hincapié is sort of like, I think they played New Zealand and Canada. So I don't think it was the most taxing of games. And
he could do with a few more games, in fairness, right?
Yeah.
He's one of the ones that would be, probably...
Exactly.
He hasn't looked lacking sharpness when he's played for us, but he should be. He's the one who didn't get a start to the season.
Yeah. And he's a bit of a clean sheet maestro as well. He's had 7 consecutive clean sheets personally from when playing for Ecuador. So we'll have a bit of that. Thank you very much. What I did find interesting is that the one person to have played 3 games. So of course, let's flog our youth. Max Dowman for England under-19s, they had 3 games over this period, and it's sort of like, sorry, is no one listening? Is no one understanding here? It's like, do you not get it? Why are they playing 3 games? Maybe they're not playing so much in the intensity, but eventually it will always catch up. So again, you've got to be starting at the very beginning, just manage the minutes.
The majority of those players, if they're playing PL2, that's like 24 games in a season, is it? And then you've got the old LDV vans, which is potentially going to add like somewhere in the region of 7 to 8 games in a season at most. So it's not, if you think of it that, and depending on what age grade he was at, actually, because he
was playing for under-19s, so he's playing like
So actually, a lot of them aren't even playing PL2. A lot of them are playing in the youth, which is like, I think as little as 18 games in a season.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. They're quite low. They play really low.
It just looked wrong.
Anyway. Yeah.
It just looked wrong. If the whole discourse is about number of games and you see, they've played 3 games over the 2 weeks, I'm just going on how it looks. Maybe what you're saying is absolutely right, and they can manage the load and all the rest of it. It's very hard to trust.
They play a lot more internationally at that age group because they're expected generally to be, and it's one of the reasons why they'll just not pick them if they're too big in the Premier League, because they can't fulfil the international fixtures. But the Scottish under-17 team played something stupid like about 12 games last season, and after the lads who played for them played like as much for Scotland under-17s as they did for their clubs. They do play a lot less at age grade in England and Scotland at the very least. So I think that's where it kind of catches.
Okay. Oh well, that makes sense. And in terms of any particular highlights, Zubimendi scored against Georgia, and then we had Bukayo Saka who scored against Serbia, lovely cushioned volley, and then obviously Eze with his tap in against Serbia as well after the Foden put it on a plate for him, and yeah, all that jazz. I can't be bothered getting into all that, but yeah, that was very ridiculous. I don't know. You know all about that, all the Foden Eze discourse.
I never seen. I recently saw the original bit. I've just kept scrolling past it because it just seems really pathetic. Like,
It is.
Worry about it. Do you know what I mean? It was just a line of commentary where somebody.
But that's the thing. It wasn't just the commentary; it was the interview afterwards, and then
was
the
it?
England, and then the England social media team. It was, it was all, again, but anyway, I think other pods and everyone else has done it to death. So we'll not follow suit.
I mean,
but
it didn't look like a particularly wonderful pass either. It just looked like
quite
a simple outside pass to Eze, who then is bent in a bit of a butte.
But it was.
I didn't watch the game, so I didn't see the full context.
That's the whole irony of it. And there we go. But anyway,
in watching England coast to any kind of victory, I'll watch the Arsenal players' goals, and that's about it.
Yeah, indeed. And so that's the international break. So that's over. So the next one now, not until March. So it's Arsenal from now until March. So, and yeah, there's a whole load of games. And then the only other bit of, there's other bits of news. Sounds like Saka is very near to agreeing a new contract, which is good. And then the other bit of news was that the Visit Rwanda shirt sleeve sponsorship will be coming to an end at the end of the season, which I think is a bit of a surprise because I think there was talk about trending towards an extension, and it's not like KSE.
The action groups have probably helped a little bit with that, to be honest. So there's been a lot of activity around protests around that deal, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just understand it's not a big enough deal to justify the upset.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we'd get from it. You know, somewhere between 10 and 15 million, maybe. I have no idea. But it's not like KSC have also fallen out with them because they've just signed a big deal with the LA Rams. Partnership in the US, so they're obviously still working with them. So maybe it's just from an Arsenal perspective. But it's interesting what's going to happen next because it's the old cognit. I can't even say the bloody word. Cognitive dissonance. We've got Emirates on the front of our shirt and we've got used to that, but it's not like they're a shining light on certain aspects of humanity either, sort of thing. So it's a tough one, and when you're involved with sports sponsorship, there's always going to be a when you're dealing with billionaires and billionaire country billionaire organizations. And I've lost Jamie. Yeah, when you're dealing with billionaires and multimillionaires and sponsorship in sport, you dig deep enough into anything, you're always going to find something. So I think it's a good thing that we've stopped the sponsorship, but we can't. I don't think anyone's going to get too excited just yet because we don't know what we're going to get coming forward. Like some crypto betting company or whatever, which is.
I was literally about to say a bit of betting would be an intelligent suggestion, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but so let's see. It's the nature of the beast, and we sometimes have to turn a blind eye to certain things, and I guess there's a certain limit to what we'll accept, or basically what you get used to. So let's see. So it could be a case of out of the frying pan and into the fire, but let's open up and let's see. So there we go. Right. That's that done with, and now we can get back on with the football, and we take on Spurs at the weekend, the 12th match of the season, Super Sunday, 4:30 kickoff on Sunday at the Emirates, and I like to call it the Let It All Work Out derby because Arsenal fans, of course, know that's the song associated with the Eze signing, but for some unknown reason, Spurs official decided to use it for the signing of Xavi Simons, which was either really piss poor attempt at trolling or complete lack of self-awareness. Anyway, it was quite ridiculous if you ask me. But some stats before I ask you what you're looking forward to and not looking forward to about the game. Arsenal have kept, and this is from Albinho, so thank you, Albinho. Arsenal have kept just one clean sheet in their last 12 Premier League games against Spurs at the Emirates. Tottenham have won just one of their last 32 Premier League away games at Arsenal, none of the last 14. So Arsenal won 9 and drawn 5. Arsenal's opening goal has been an own goal by a Spurs player in the 4 of the last 5 North London derbies. Spurs haven't. I know, ridiculous. Spurs haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 26 Premier League visits to Arsenal, and Son and Harry Kane have scored 22 of the last 29 goals Spurs have scored in the North London derbies, including 9 of the last 10 in the fixture. So unless they're bringing them back on loan for the weekend, they might have some trouble, especially because Solanke's out as well. So we could be just 1 point above City by kickoff. So with all that in mind, what are you looking forward to and not looking forward to as far as Arsenal-Tottenham's concerned?
I'm not looking forward to the agony and anxiousness of every moment until you're 2 goals clear of Tottenham. That will start probably sometime around Saturday night, and then hopefully within 10 minutes, but we'll see at the kickoff. But we'll see about that. What I'm looking forward to is I'm in the clock again, which I was for the last NLD as well. I'm a little bit close to the Ashburton Army that I'd like to be.
You'll be holding up the tifo.
I'm pretty much in the gaff, yeah, absolutely. So I'm in with them. But
you got your drumsticks.
Yeah, I maybe should put that in. Not what I'm not looking forward to. But actually, no, I do. Actually, I love being in the clock for the derby and for the big games in general. It's a great place to be. So
next to the away fans,
looking forward to having to watch back any goals that happen down the North Bank ends, but getting a fantastic view of anything that goes in down our end. So yeah,
it's all about the atmosphere.
It's the NLD, and it's always fun at Emirates. So if we can just keep business as usual and keep on winning those, put yet another notch on the on the board, then delighted,
Yeah. I mean, I think like you, I'm looking forward to the final whistle, just as long as we're winning, and looking forward to see how we'll cope without Gabriel. What Arteta's thinking around the team. Yeah, I think like everyone else is not looking forward to it. It's a North London derby, and no matter how bad they are, it's always a bit of a tough game. It's always nervy, tense, and you're sort of only enjoying it when you're sort of like 2-3-0 up, or once you've won and it's full time. Otherwise, it's sort of like just that. And again, this is going to have added pressure in terms of league position as well. And we are the better team. We should be winning. We're at home, so all of that feed into it. And pretty much they've got, not that they've got nothing to lose, but if they lose or even draw, then that's sort of part of what they're expecting and part of who they are. Whereas if we come away with a draw, that's going to feel like, again, two more points dropped. So it's a huge game, and like every game is going to be like that. Every game is going to come across seeing as huge, and this is sort of why the Sunderland result and that last minute goal is still a bit galling, because of just having that little buffer is always nice to have. And I know that's football and you can't always have that, and we discussed that before the international break. It's just little things like that. You just think, if we just had that extra couple of points, it can make a bit of a difference, and maybe you can have a bit of leeway elsewhere. But that's where we had a leeway. So then now we've got to go away and win this one. So in terms of the lineup, so again, the press conferences were taking place just before we recorded, and Arteta gave some injury updates. So on Calafiori, and before I was going to mention this earlier, I saw this stat today on Calafiori, and I thought this was brilliant. If I can bring it up, if I can remember my passcode. Only 3 players have had 5+ shots with their right foot, 5+ shots with their left foot, and 5 headed shots in the Premier League this season. Igor Thiago for Brentford, Jean-Philippe Mateta for Crystal Palace, and Ricardo Calafiori for Arsenal.
I knew it was going to be Ricardo, yeah. I'm fairly certain. As soon as he said that stat, I was like, going to be Ricardo Calafiori.
That's brilliant. I love that for our roaming left back. It's incredible. So how we've moved on from Zinchenko, it's incredible. So yeah, look, he said Ricardo Calafiori missed the Italy games. He wasn't available. He's been carrying a few things. We had to bring him back. He hasn't trained yet. We have another session tomorrow. So let's see. On Martin Odegaard, Gabriel, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Kai Havertz, Jesus, and Noni Madueke. He said, we put a lot of energy in the international break with the medical staff to try to bring them back as quickly as possible. Tomorrow we have another training session to see how they are feeling. If this game is too close or they can have a contribution in the game. I'm hopeful we can make a step tomorrow, but certainly I cannot tell you. so he's not giving too much away. It sounds like maybe a couple could be back. I think Madueke was potentially close for the Sunderland game. Maybe Odegaard, you see him jumping around celebrating with his Norway mates, so maybe his knee's not so bad. Jesus, we've seen pictures of. So for Jesus, we've actually seen pictures of in training, and the one for me is interesting. Martinelli. No, we don't actually know what's wrong with him. He came on, I think, for the last few minutes against Palace, and we've not seen him since. So that's a strange one that he suddenly got injured. But with all of that in mind, how do you think we're gonna line up? What would you say is going to be our starting 11? What who do you think we're going to be playing at the back?
So it's Raya, it's Timber, it's Saliba, it's either Hincapié or Mascara.
What would you want, and what do you think Arteta's going to do?
I think he'll go Hincapié. I think he's probably seen enough now to go. He does the right, Mascara does he does the left, Mascara does the right. Mm-hmm. However, I think that also might depend on Riccardo Calafiori. So if there genuinely is a Calafiori issue, then I wouldn't be surprised if instead of seeing MLS there, we see Hincapié at left back and Mascara at centre. Mm-hmm. I think that's another possibility as well. So, yeah, that they're sort of the two interesting positions midfield wise. I mean, we're very definitely going to see Zubi and Rice, and then the question mark is obviously: do we see Eze? Do we see? Is it going to be Eze? Is it going to be Odegaard coming back from injury? Who
Nwaneri
might be fit. It's not going to be Ethan Nwaneri. I'd love him to have that faith, but I think. We're hearing a lot at the moment about potential of a loan in January. I think that's probably the way it's going to go. And I think that's the right way for it to go. Yeah, I think that's picking up a lot of speed at the moment. Ethan Nwaneri to go out on loan.
Would you want that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
I think Ethan needs. I think Ethan will really benefit from an ESR, from a spell out in the likes of Leipzig, that kind of team. Somewhere he just goes, he gets to be a really central figure. Playing in his preferred position and have a good 6 months doing it.
Okay. Because no, I wouldn't countenance it. I would just think, look, he's still 18. He's still loads of time in his development.
And actually, they see it as being that he needs it for his development at the moment. And I would agree. I think he won't get anything out of playing PL2.
But no, true. No, but if he goes on loan, you have to. It's so hard to find the right club because you're going to get an untested 18-year-old. So how many and you want him to play in a certain way?
He's had quite a bit of football, and I would
but if you're a manager, if you're a manager whose job's on the line, do you put your faith in a 18-year-old on loan from Arsenal?
I think you've got Serge Gnabry in your head there, and I think if you look at what we do now with our loan management, we have proven since we brought in Ben, whatever his chops is, the loan manager, that we get those loans much, much better. We do tend to get players in the right teams where they can have an impact and ultimately can come back to us as a better player or alternatively find a different future for themselves. But I have no doubt there is a loan out there that will suit Ethan Nwaneri, and I think he's talented enough to take the opportunity. And I think, if he had the kind of loan that you look at the loans to Germany that either ESR or Reece Nelson land, I think they would be potentially the kind of moves I'll be thinking about for him. But
I think given the injuries we've had this season, I think there's just no way we're letting anyone go on loan.
And yet he's still not getting minutes. And
he's fine. He's young. He's got plenty of time.
So I agree. Overall,
and he's got a 5-year contract. So.
But I think alone is a really good potential development point.
Next year potentially, but I wouldn't send him out halfway through the season. Next year, then you can go into the season knowing that you won't have him.
I think second half of the season is quite often preferred for developmental players because you get them first half of the season when you've got more cup games you can play them in. You've got more of a chance to be able to do that. They get to spend a decent amount of time around the pros. They do the full pre-season with you, etc., etc. And then second half, you send them out somewhere where they have a clear need, where there's nobody's emerged in that position in that team that's going to displace them. That potentially could happen if they're out there for the whole year. And the worst case is that you have is that the development isn't perfect for 4.5 months, whereas so it's like less of a risk in terms of how much you're placing on that other team to help the development of that player than when you send them out there for a loan, which typically then includes time in pre-season. But anyway, that's sort of, again, bits that I've heard from the Athletic at some point.
Yeah. No, I just can't see it happening because
Ethan would be great.
Yeah, maybe it would be development. I don't think it, because there may be a few, even if it's just 2 or 3 games.
Big point to prove himself to footballers around him, and he's not going to get the opportunity to do it with us at this particular moment in time.
Well, he'll play against Brighton at home in the cup, and he'll play in the first round of the FA Cup, and he'll play against.
Those games are over by January, aren't they? So,
Karat, he'll play in January and stuff like that. So I still think there's enough there.
It's late January as well. And again, we are arguing over a total hypothetical, but for me,
absolutely.
That's where I am. That's all.
Yeah.
I totally appreciate your point. I get you, but I come at it from the other side of I think sending him on a cheeky, what is effectively 3.5 months if you send him out end of Jan. 3.5 months of business end of the season, where we at least will know at that point in time, have we currently got at least 2 fit players in his position, or even just one of them, but he's so far ahead, and then you go, okay, if you can't envisage giving Ethan Nwaneri 5 starts between then and the end of the season, which would take a hell of a lot, then I think you let him go and get 15 first-team games under his belt, and that'd be fantastic.
Well, let's see. So, and then that's fine. And then who up front?
Well, then that benefited: Francis Coquelin, Jack Wilshere. As we said, Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah. Well, actually, Eddie less so from loans. Actually, I will.
But I'm just the Leeds one. The sort of Leeds didn't work out. I guess it's risk reward.
There's lots of them. ESR it worked out really well for. And actually,
who were we? But look who we were at the time. We weren't title chasing at the time, and I think we need everyone, all hands on deck. And even if he just gives Odegaard 15 minutes at the end of a few games, that could mount up to an extra game.
What if it's to the detriment of the asset?
We've got the asset for he's 80. He's only just turned.
What is detrimental? If they see it's been a key development stage for him, and they think he needs those games, and if he doesn't get those games, then he doesn't. Then that's 6 months lost to progression.
I think he's got plenty of time. I think he's still young enough, and he's got plenty of time. I think just last season accelerated a lot of stuff for the likes of MLS and Ethan, which they might not have seen. So if they hadn't had last year, then I don't think we'd be having this discussion. But yeah, look,
if they hadn't had last year, would you actually have been? Would you have thought, oh, do you know what? They don't need to. They can absolutely go on loan because we don't need them for the first team.
Well, there would be an element of that. So I just think we need all hands on deck. But anyway, that's another discussion. So he's not starting tomorrow. the long shot of that, he's not starting tomorrow.
He's not going to start tomorrow, is he? We've seen from Arteta, he's not going to chuck him in a North London derby.
No.
So it's either Eze or it's Odegaard, depending on whether Odegaard's fit. And then and I don't think it's dependent on whether Odegaard's fit. I think it's dependent on whether he trusts Odegaard for that game as well as being fit.
That's the thing. Do you bring them back? Are they ready to start a game of that intensity, considering they've been out for so long?
No, I think you start Eze, but we have seen him do it. We have seen him bring Odegaard straight back in.
Yeah, Odegaard particularly. The way he did Chelsea away last year.
Odegaard is more likely to do it with than anyone else, right? Odegaard, Gabriel, it's those cornerstone players. Saka, anyone else. I think he would work. They'd work their way back in. But I think we will see. I think we could see Odo. I still think it's 50-50 just because Ez is such a capable player and has been there for so many games now.
And
that
then
potentially, raises then what does the left wing look like? Because Trossard's on brilliant form. But if Odo does come back, then Ez is suddenly competing for left as well. Yeah. So it is an interesting selection. The most interesting out of all of them for me is striker. In the whole team.
Well, we haven't got one. It's interesting because we don't have one.
So it's probably Mikel Merino.
Yeah.
There's a little part of me that would half like to see if Odegaard were fit, that would half like to see a bit of an experiment with Eberechi Eze as a false nine. Actually, I've got
actually, I can't remember, against Sunderland when Mourinho went walkabout.
Yeah.
In the nicest possible way, Eze was the front man. He would take the number. He would take the number 9.
He picks up those positions nicely enough, and he's such a good striker.
He's more likely to put Trossard up front and have Eze on the left if we're not going to have Mourinho.
Well, but I'm just curious about. The potential.
But then they would interchange. So again, would be fairly fluid. Like Saka go over to the left. It'd be a bit.
And when I say false nine, I don't mean. I mean proper false nine. Proper false nine.
So
not even Havertz, is to me not much of a false nine. He's just a 9 when he plays. But yeah, it is actually. I mean, that stimulated a lot more conversation over the 11 than we've had most of the time. There are some interesting bits. There are some gaps, and I think that's just mainly it's post international window, and some players are close to fitness. So the question marks are going to be made up by truthfully. What do the fitness tests that probably happen today at the end of their session at Colney today or tomorrow? What do they reveal? And
it's not just Spurs. Then we got Bayern midweek, and we got Chelsea away, and then we got Brentford at home, and then Villa away. So also you got to do it in the context. Do you risk it against Spurs, and then you lose them for further on down the line? And I think we're getting to the point where we are going to be more risk averse, with our players. So, like, if you're fit, you play. If you don't fit, sorry, you're on the bench type stuff. Again, Odegaard is the one exception to that. That's it. But other than that, I think I would like to see these players on the bench. So I'm happy starting. So the only enforced change would be at left centre back. And do you go with Mosquera, who's had the minutes? So, right, he may not be ideally a left centre-back, but he's had the minutes. He played Liverpool away. He's played Newcastle away. He's played at the Emirates. He seems a cool, calm, collected guy. He's talented. He's big, so he can sort of replace Gabby from a height perspective. Versus Nketiah, coming to a North London derby, I think we're being stereotypical in terms of a hothead, but he's a front-footed player who goes in, and you got him against Richarlison, who's a prick and who'll wind him up. So it's like, do you need that there? Would you take him? Would you put him in at left back? But you got to trust these players. So I'm more inclined to say Mosquera, just because he's had the minutes in big games or already, and so on. And I think Calafiori. Well, again, I was more confident on Calafiori starting before I heard what Arteta said, but we got to keep Calafiori at left back purely because it's going to be a low block, low to mid block, low block, and we're going to struggle a bit with Mourinho, and Saka's going to be doubled up, and Trossard's going to be Trossard. So we need that something different from Calafiori, and if he plays left centre back, which is an option, I think potentially you'd lose that because you don't want him going wandering from left centre back. He goes wandering from left back. So I really hope. I think Calafiori is the key to this game. But also I've got a bit of a feeling for Eze, the narrative bingo, with the signing. But we need a big game players, Rice and Saka, to step up. We can be without Gyökeres, we can be without Gabriel. If Rice and Saka put in a stormer, Eze gets his narrative. Yeah, we can beat this lot easy. So, but it needs them to play. But also one interesting one, Jesus. How do you feel about his return? Because he could also be another reason why maybe you would send Nwaneri out on loan, because he could potentially cover the left if Nwaneri was going to end up at the right midfield or something like that. Yeah, so good
honestly,
to see him.
Quite excited.
Yeah,
I think it's great to have a Jesus there, and I think when you get to the point where Jesus isn't your main number 9, that's a fantastic position to have him in. To be frank, the options that he gives you, the impact that he can have. I'm actually genuinely excited to have him back around the gaff.
Yeah, he can cover across the front three.
Where he's at, he's not played for so long. Difficult, but
put it on for 10 minutes to run it. Put him on to 10 minutes, run around a lot, get in people's faces. We needed that at Sunderland. If we could have had just 10 minutes of Jesus against Sunderland, it would have been a different game, different ending. If 10 minutes of Madueke, it would have been a different ending. Yeah.
And I think Jesus is a lad who's only really suffered for the Arsenal when he lost confidence at times.
Mm.
And I wonder if the lack of pressure that he should be under now, and I wonder if he comes back from something like a big injury and is just grateful to be playing,
Yeah.
not feeling the pressure and just plays with a smile on his face. When he plays with a smile on his face, he's a cracking player. He's a really good footballer.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a little bit more of that for the Arsenal again. I don't want to see the back of it. He's not in the position that Zinchenko was in, where I think Zinchenko hit a point where he was so far off the standard of the team that he had very little role to play, even in as a role playing sort of drifting in and out the team sort of player. Jesus totally has that. Jesus is still good enough to have an impact on our performances going forward.
World Cup, you never know. He goes off, he catches fire, and look, Brazil are relying on Richarlison for crying out loud. So there's always a chance. So, and unfortunately, we do have to talk about Spurs, who are basically Brentford with money. They have the best away record in the league. However, they've overperformed their stats for and against, and the opposition, bar City, haven't been exactly the most taxing. So it's unsure to know how good they are. They're still very Spursy. I mean, they had to be better than last year. But we're 8 points above them. They're in fifth on 18 points. They've got 4 others also on 18 points, but they're top on goal difference. But in terms of Spursy, you saw the last game, Tottenham, Man United, Richarlison thinking he's won the World Cup by running around taking his shirt off, and then 30 seconds later, Man United get the equaliser. They got a 1-0 spanking at home to Chelsea. They've been beaten at home to Villa, but this is away. They got Thomas Frank, who's caused us trouble with their Brentford teams. So expect him to, and I think he's an admirer and a studier of Arsenal and Arteta. So I think he'll set them up just to stifle, to nullify, to be deadly dull. They're a good set piece team, defensively and attacking wise. So again, that's where Big G coming in, being out is going to be a bit of a miss. So it's going to be, they're just going to stink the place out and try and get some sort of scrappy set piece goal, some counter attacking goal. They're not going to attack us. And any threat they have is down the flanks, through the middle. They haven't got anyone really of note. So they'll, they get the attack from the width from either the fullbacks or the wingers. And Van der Ven, who is Messi and Ronaldo rolled into one apparently at the moment, because he's scored a few more goals than Gyökeres. But if you look, but they've also suffered a lot of injuries recently. If you think ours was bad, theirs was pretty bad. They had the likes of Archie Gray, Ben Davis, Kulusevski, Solanke, Maddison, Bergvall, Kudus, Dragusin, Kolomoani, and Bissouma. All injured.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for us, Sarr, Bergvall, Kolomoani, and Kudus have all trained, and apparently they're available. And some of the other no marks, apparently they've trained, and they might be available to start as well. So they're getting their players back, but they'll have the same problem. Do you bring these players back in to start? Considering they've been out, how fit will they be? But so it's not going to be easy. Never is. But how do you see this one panning? How do you see this one panning out? And what's your prediction?
It's a tough one. I'm mainly worried in terms of the matchup by the lack of centre forward, whilst going up against probably the second best centre half partnership in the Premier League. That's a little bit of a concern for me. And actually, I say second best partnership. I think about 75 to 25% of that is 75% of that partnership is Van der Ven. 25% Christian Romero. I think it's a little bit overrated at times, but very good.
Yeah,
Mickey Van der Ven is absolutely phenomenal as a centre half, and probably
is he, or is he just reliant on his pace? Is he actually any good as a centre half?
Absolutely phenomenal. I will not have it any other way. He is a brilliant footballer, but As overall, we should be able to get out and win the game. And we're at the Emirates where we normally beat them. And everything that you've told me so far has lured me into a massively false sense of security. I'm not getting anxious. I'm very relaxed now. I know we're going to win 3-0 because apparently they're a bunch of no marks.
I didn't say that. I just said they're Spursy and they're boring.
You did say the other no marks.
Right. Ben Davis, Dragusin, and Archie Gray. Jesus, if you're going to be worried about them, then you've got bigger problems.
Weirdly, Ben Davis is this world that I worry about in the NLD the most. I think, to be honest, those sort of just dickheads, But anyway, so no, I think we'll have enough in the tank to beat them. So you've got to go out and try and beat teams like Tottenham, but they are a much better team than they have been probably for 2 seasons now. So this is the strongest team to come to the Emirates, I think, since they were last a good team. Simple as that, really. Last season they were shite. Tail end of the season before they were shite.
I know, but we only beat them 2-1, didn't we? It's like,
yeah, exactly. And
we only beat them 1-0 away.
They'll still get up for it, and that's what it is. So, but I do think that we should win this game.
Okay, and the other thing to take into account, it's after the international break, so I think we need. I think we score first, we win, because I think we win easy. So I think we need to get off to a fast start, use the energy of the crowd. But it's after the international break, and our first halves haven't been great this season, and particularly after international break, we don't have that rhythm, we don't have that flow. I think we need to turn that. We really need to use the energy of the crowd. And it's a 4:30 kickoff, so everyone's going to be absolutely smashed on both sides. And also because we don't have much change up on the bench, we really need to take advantage of the first 11 that we have out there, because depending on who comes back, we might have a Martinelli, we might have a Madueke for 15-20 minutes. Do you want to rely on them? You're losing, or it's a draw for them to get you the result. You don't mind bring them on to hold on to a result, but for them to actually get you the result. So I think we're really relying on the starting 11 to get us like getting at half time, 2-0 up, shut up shop type stuff. But it won't be easy. I think the crowd will have to be patient, because as I said, Spurs are just going to stink the place out. And the other thing is Michael Oliver is ref. The last time he refed was when he sent off MLS incorrectly. He also last season sent off Trossard, also I think incorrectly for me. He's also the man who did the double yellow, Nelly at Wolves. The socials all have it in for him, and rightly so, if you ask me. However, Arsenal have won 7 and lost just 1 of the last 10 Premier League games Oliver's officiated. So I'll take those odds. However, there have been 3 red cards in the last 3 Arsenal games officiated by Oliver as well. So it's like, do you care?
Not really.
No, I didn't think you would. I just remember last time it was like, fuck you, Michael Oliver. That was my send-off after Wolves game. But it is what it is.
Do you know what? I get it. There's some hatches to bury with the man. I think certainly some of our worst decisions have come with him. But you can find fault with every referee. There's always going to be something there. So I'm also fairly sure as well. There's about 5 other teams in the Premier League have major hatchets to bury with Michael Oliver as well. So it's just
apart from City,
he's a shite ref. That's it. That kind of is about it for me.
So come on then. What do you predict other than pain? To misquote Mr. T from Rocky 3, what are you predicting?
A riot.
Very good, very good.
I'm going to go with 2. I'm going to go with 2-1.
Yeah, Arsenal Spurs is a very 2-1-y type game, isn't it? But
it's also like a fucking 5-3 game and a 4-all.
Yeah, but it's never a nil.
No. When was the last? Has there ever been a 0-0 at the Emirates?
Well, no. So, let's ignore the friendly in Singapore or Hong Kong, wherever it was. So, 2-1 at the Emirates last year, 1-0 away at their place, 3-2 at their place, 2-2 at the Emirates, 2-0 at their place, 3-1 at the Emirates. We lost 3-0 at their place, 3-1 at the Emirates. So, All right, sorry, I got a phone call from the wife and I had to stop. So I don't know where we are. And it came through the computer. Anyway, we tend to let in goals against, what I think the story is, we tend to let in goals against Tottenham at the Emirates. So 2-1 is a very reasonable result.
We
And
haven't
sorry,
had a
what were you
clean
looking
sheet
up?
against them at the Emirates since 2017. But
Yeah.
and I did have a look to see if there's ever any 0-0s. There has never been a 0-0 at the Emirates.
No.
There's been 1 0-0 at White Hart Lane in the whole history of the Premier League, and there were 3 0-0s in the Bruce Rioch and Early and Stuart Houston / Arsene Wenger era, and that's it. Basically, over the last 25 years, 27 years, in fact, there's always a goal. There just always is. This game does not.
So do I go, well, eventually records are there to be broken, or
Invoke the spirit of
if it looks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, and if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. All right, so we're going to let in a goal. So, I'm going to go for a confident 3. I want to say nil. God, fuck it. Yeah, 3-0. We're going to win 3-0. They're shit. We're good, and that's all she wrote. So there we go. I've confidently predicted 3-0. Okay, good. So thank you, Jamie, for today, especially the Tartan Army podcast at the beginning of the show. Appreciate that.
No worries.
And so we will be back post Spurs, pre Bayern Munich, hopefully in fabulous moods, and looking forward to turning over our nemesis from Germany midweek. So let's deal with the Spuds, and then we'll deal with Bayern Munich. You can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Insta, YouTube, blah 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 at the Grove AFC. And as I said, if you can give us a like, follow, if you can leave a comment, subscribe, rating, be very much appreciated. And you can let others hear Tartan Army chat in the future. Anyway, enough of that. It's time to go. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And until the next time, come on, you Gunners.